Have you ever slipped an old CD into your computer, expecting that familiar moment where the album cover appears, every track name fills in, and it feels like your music collection just organized itself? For more than 20 years, Windows Media Player did exactly that for millions of people around the world, and in a way that most users never even thought about how it worked. You could rip a whole collection, trust the titles and artists were correct, and move on with your day. But now, without warning, that experience is broken. Since December of 2025, countless users have started seeing nothing but unknown artist and track 01 where rich album data used to be, with no clear explanation on their screen and no simple fix waiting in a settings menu. This isn't a conspiracy theory or a temporary glitch. Microsoft has shut down the CD album information service that powered Windows Media Player and related features after more than 2 decades of operation. Microsoft turned off why it matters far beyond a bit of missing album art and what you can still do right now if you rely on your CDs, 6, and your PC to manage your music. For over 20 years, Windows Media Player offered a feature that seemed almost magical when it first appeared. The concept was straightforward. When you inserted an audio CD into your PC, the player would connect to Microsoft's metadata servers and automatically retrieve information about that disc. Track names, artist credits, album titles, genre classifications, and cover artwork would populate instantly. Microsoft marketed this as a seamless integration between physical media and digital convenience. The official purpose was to enhance the user experience for anyone ripping their CD collection to their computer or simply playing discs through Windows. The service relied on a database technology originally developed in the mid-1990s called CDDB, which stood for Compact Disc Database. When a CD is inserted, the player reads the table of contents from the disc, which contains the number of tracks and the precise length of each track. Using these track lengths, the software generates a unique identifier called a disk ID. That disk ID is sent to Microsoft's servers, which query a massive database linking disk IDs to metadata submitted by users and music industry sources. If a match exists, the server sends back all the album information, which Windows Media Player then displays and embeds into any files you rip from that CD. The entire process typically took just a few seconds. Microsoft's implementation used a service endpoint called musicmatchsl.xboxlive.com, which connected Windows Media Player Legacy and the newer Media Player app in Windows 11 to the metadata backend. This wasn't just a convenience feature for casual users. For music archivists, radio producers, DJs, and anyone managing large physical media libraries, automatic metadata retrieval was essential workflow infrastructure. Manually typing track names for hundreds or thousands of CDs is not just tedious, it's error-prone and time-consuming. But the official narrative of convenience hides a more complex reality. What users experienced as a simple lookup service was actually dependent on a chain of corporate licensing agreements, third-party database providers, and server infrastructure that Microsoft had no obligation to maintain indefinitely. In mid-December 2025, users began flooding Microsoft support forums with reports that the Find Album Info feature had stopped working. One user documented that everything functioned normally on December 14th, but failed completely by December 15th. Others reported identical symptoms across both Windows Media Player Legacy on Windows 10 and the modern Media Player app in Windows 11. When attempting to retrieve album information, users encountered connection errors referencing the musicmatchsl.xboxlive.com endpoint. The server simply stopped responding. Testing by technology journalists confirmed the failure was universal. Multiple CDs from different eras and genres returned the same result: album not found. When reporters from the Register reached out to Microsoft's public relations team asking whether the service had been officially retired or if a workaround existed, they received no response. However, a message posted on Reddit, allegedly from a Microsoft support chat representative, stated that the servers had indeed been shut down and that users should seek third-party alternatives. The support representative reportedly said the new media player is focused on playback, not ripping, which explains Microsoft's apparent lack of interest in maintaining the metadata infrastructure. What's particularly striking is the context. This shutdown occurred just weeks after physical music media saw its first year-over-year sales increase in 20 years in the United Kingdom. Vinyl sales grew by 12% in the first half of 2024, and even CD sales showed a significant slowing of their decades-long decline. In the United States, the Recording Industry Association of America reported that CDs outsold digital downloads by nearly 3 times in the first half of 2024. 43% of CD purchasers were under the age of 35, demonstrating renewed interest from younger consumers. Microsoft shut down a service supporting a format experiencing a documented resurgence. The shutdown appears linked to a broader retirement of Microsoft's Windows Metadata and Internet Services, or WMIS. In 2024, Microsoft announced it would stop delivering new metadata packages through WMIS as of May 2025, with existing packages available for download only through December 2025. That announcement focused primarily on hardware device metadata, the system that provided custom icons and manufacturer information for peripherals and Windows. The official documentation made no specific mention of music metadata or Windows Media Player functionality. But WMIS represented Microsoft's overarching approach to delivering cloud-based metadata to Windows clients, and the music database followed the same fate without separate notice. There were earlier signs of abandonment. A Microsoft support response from October 2025 acknowledged that the metadata retrieval feature for Windows Media Player on Windows 7 and Windows 8 had been officially retired, with the server fa.music.metaservices.microsoft.com permanently shut down since 2019. The December 2025 shutdown extended that retirement to Windows 10 and Windows 11. Microsoft also rebranded the classic Windows Media Player as Legacy, while promoting its modern Media Player app as the forward-looking replacement. Yet when the shutdown occurred, both the Legacy and modern versions lost metadata functionality simultaneously. The pattern suggests a systematic cost-cutting measure rather than a targeted technical decision. Microsoft's internal telemetry presumably showed declining usage of CD playback features, and the company decided the infrastructure costs no longer justified continued operation. No consideration appears to have been given to the users who remain dependent on the service. The human impact of this shutdown extends far beyond the inconvenience of missing album artwork. Consider a music archivist who has spent years building a meticulously organized digital library from a collection of several thousand CDs. Each disc, inserted into their Windows PC over the past 2 decades, automatically received accurate, standardized metadata. Track names were spelled consistently, album titles matched official releases, genre tags aligned across compilations. That archivist could search their library by artist, album, year, or genre and trust the results. Now, imagine they acquire a box of rare recordings from an estate sale. They insert the first disc. Windows Media Player returns unknown artist and a list of tracks labeled track 01 through track 15. To properly catalog this material, they must now manually research each disc, type every track name with perfect spelling and capitalization, and ensure consistency with their existing library standards. Multiply that process across hundreds of discs. What was once a 5-second automated task now requires several minutes per album of focused manual labor. For a journalist working on a documentary project, the risk is even more immediate. Imagine they need to review interview recordings and archival audio stored on CDRs from sources who use non-standard labeling. Without automatic metadata, each disc requires manual note-taking to track content, timestamps, and source attribution. A mislabeled disc could mean losing track of a critical interview segment or attributing information to the wrong source. The metadata service wasn't just about convenience. It was about accuracy, consistency, and preservation of context. For radio producers and DJs who still use physical media for specific broadcasts or archival purposes, the workflow disruption is tangible. Stations that maintain libraries of local recordings, live performances, or licensed content on CD must now implement entirely new cataloging procedures mid-operation. These aren't hypothetical scenarios. These are the real use cases that Microsoft's decision directly undermines. After the shutdown became public, Microsoft offered no official remediation. The company has not announced plans to restore the service, provide a transition period, or offer guidance for affected users. The leaked support chat conversation suggested users should find third-party software. That leaves users with limited options. Apple's iTunes still maintains functional CD metadata lookup through Gracenote, a commercial database provider. When journalists tested iTunes with the same CDs that failed in Windows Media Player, iTunes recognized every disc and retrieved complete information. This confirms the issue is Microsoft's decision to shut down its service, not a broader industry problem with metadata availability. However, switching to iTunes requires installing additional software, adapting to a different interface, and potentially migrating existing libraries. For users deeply integrated into the Windows ecosystem, this is not a trivial change. Specialized ripping software like Exact Audio Copy offers advanced features and can connect to multiple metadata databases. EAC is widely regarded as the gold standard for archival quality CD ripping because it uses error correction and verification techniques that ensure bit-perfect copies. But EAC has a steep learning curve and is designed for enthusiasts willing to configure complex settings. It is not a drop-in replacement for the simple, automatic experience Windows Media Player once provided. What remains striking is that Microsoft still ships Windows Media Player Legacy with Windows 11. Users can enable it through Windows features and set it as their default media player. The application still includes menu options labeled Find Album Info and Update Album Info Online. Those options still exist in the interface. they simply no longer function. Clicking them produces connection errors or empty results. Microsoft has not updated the software to remove the non-functional features or display a notification explaining the service has been discontinued. Users are left troubleshooting phantom problems, convinced their network settings are misconfigured or their Windows installation is corrupted, when the reality is that Microsoft has simply turned off the servers on the other end. The practical steps available to affected users are limited but concrete. If you still need to rip CDs with automatic metadata, install iTunes on your Windows PC. iTunes is free, connects to Gracenote's commercial database, and provides reliable metadata retrieval. The interface differs from Windows Media Player, but the core functionality is intact. If you prefer open source solutions or need advanced ripping quality, research Exact Audio Copy. Be prepared for a learning curve, but the software offers superior error correction and metadata flexibility. For users who have already ripped CDs without metadata and now face libraries full of files labeled Track 101 and Unknown Artist, manual correction is unfortunately the only comprehensive solution. Select all tracks from a single album, right-click, choose Properties or Get Info, depending on your software, and manually enter the album name, artist, track numbers, and titles. Consistency matters. Use the same capitalization and punctuation style across your entire library to ensure searchability. If you have a massive library and cannot justify the time investment, consider using a third-party metadata correction tool like MusicBrainz Picard, which can analyze audio fingerprints and match files to online databases even without disk ID information. For future proofing, consider whether you want to continue relying on Windows Media Player at all. The legacy version is clearly no longer receiving meaningful updates, and the modern Media Player app offers no improvements for CD functionality. Switching to iTunes, Foobar 2000, or another actively maintained media player now will prevent future disruptions as Microsoft continues phasing out legacy infrastructure. Your operating system is no longer just a tool that serves your needs. It's a platform controlled by a company that will discontinue features, shut down services, and break workflows whenever the cost-benefit calculus shifts in their internal spreadsheets. If you still rely on Windows Media Player for ripping CDs, take action now before you're stuck troubleshooting a problem that has no solution within Microsoft's ecosystem. Install iTunes or Exact Audio Copy today so you're prepared the next time you insert a disk. And if you know someone who still uses CDs with their Windows PC, share this video with them. Most people have no idea this shutdown even happened. They'll insert a disk next month, see Unknown Artist, and waste hours trying to fix something Microsoft broke without warning. Drop a comment and let me know. Have you been affected by this shutdown? Or did you discover it through this video? Tell me what CD you were trying to rip when you first noticed something was wrong, or whether you had already moved away from Windows Media Player years ago. Your experience matters, and it helps other viewers understand just how widespread this issue really is. I'm currently investigating another major tech company that quietly changed a core feature affecting millions of users worldwide, and the implications are even more serious than what we covered today. If you want to stay informed about what's really happening behind the software you use every day, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next investigation. These companies are counting on you not paying attention. They're banking on the fact that most people won't notice when a feature disappears, won't question why something that worked for decades suddenly stops, and won't demand accountability when services get shut down without warning. Don't let them get away with it. Stay informed, stay critical, and keep asking questions.